So, hello, fellow humans. This is M and V. On this channel, we talk about our ideas and we overthink things and discuss them to no end. So, the topic today is actually interracial dating. Um, for me, this is somewhat hits close to home since I am in an interracial relationship. But a lot of the conversation that I'd heard around interracial dating, it it kind of bugs me. Mostly because it seems like it focuses mainly on like racial fetishism, which don't get me wrong, is an issue within interracial dating, but could also be argued for like same ethnicity dating as well. But I would say that this also is like attributed to any community, right? Like there are many fetishes within like relationships. Like for little people, there are fetishes. For like trans people, there are fetishes. So I don't think it's quite unique to interracial relationships. I think what's more interesting of a topic, and hopefully V can help me out and like digging into this a bit more is the aspect of cultural preservation within an interracial relationship and that idea kind of influencing our choices on our partners. So yeah. Um to kind of start us off, V, do you have anything that like jumps to mind?
Well, firstly, I want to let the people know I am not in a interracial relationship, but I am the product of one. Uh, I'm probably going to have a little bit later on. I might be better able to answer from that perspective. As far as cultural preservation goes, I'm not speaking for all interracial children, but for myself at least, I believe that culture should be very strong for as many cultures as is in that person, to the best of your abilities as a parent. If you can do, it's not always possible, and it's not always wanted, but you risk your children losing out on certain aspects of their own culture if you don't give them a reason to celebrate it, if that makes sense.
Mm,
My little thing.
yeah, I mean, do you think that there is a sacrifice that comes with being in an interracial relationship? Because I know the argument a lot is like, well, I won't be able to introduce my culture very effectively within an interracial relationship. Or it feels more so that it's not like, or let me put it this way. It feels more so that it's more difficult for sure. Like, but I don't think it's impossible. I don't know. For you,
Yeah,
hmm do you find that
that's
to
a
be
good
true?
thought. I think it depends on the relationship. So in my case, it'd be my parents. One was more into heavy cultural preservation than the other was, and it wasn't because the other parent was bad, like that. It was more because they also had some aspects of their own culture. Like, sure, they were Asian by birth, but that doesn't necessarily qualify you for automatically knowing all things about Asian culture. Um,
Hmm.
so parents were even in the interracial relationship. So having a white dad and a Asian mom, it made things a little bit more difficult as far as cultural preservation, as if she would have had two Asian parents. So how can she pass down what she doesn't have?
Mm,
I'd say.
yeah, I guess. Do you think that it's like possible for both cultures to be preserved fairly equally within an interracial relationship, or do you think one always kind of like loses out to the other?
I think that's a discussion between the people. We know some people who, I won't name them personally, but there are 3 sisters that we went to school with. 2 of them we went to school with, excuse me. The 3rd sister was older than us, but they were Asian, and the father, who was white, said that he did not want his children speaking Tagalog or whatever dialect that their mom spoke. He didn't want them speaking it until it was too late for them to learn it. Had they learned it as children, obviously they'd be more fluent at it, but he waited too long and he just really didn't want them to learn it. I think it was in his end. They never told me this, but if you ask me, any person that wants to kind of suppress the language of another person, that's more on them. That speaks more on them and their values than it does on the person with the actual second language.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. That like that seems like such a strange stipulation. I mean, it feels like though that how can I say? That it's really only the topic of cultural preservation is only really important to people that have a strong or want to have a strong connection to their heritage. Do you know what I mean? Like for my relationship, there isn't such like a need to or desire to pass on like our culture and like instill it in on other people. But I also realize like in my relationship we're not at the stage of like making babies and popping them out and you know. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I'm not popping out babies or anything. So there's no need to like extend my culture onto them. But how can I say? I think also like from my family's perspective, we don't have such like a strong desire to continue on said traditions because we haven't really had strong traditions or like a strong like heritage foundation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I can see it with your sister. It's interesting because they have popped. It's very interesting on how they choose to like insert certain cultural traditions. Not that they have made said, but just interesting seeing how they choose the language. Okay. So
mm, yeah, like looking at my sister's relationship, would you say that they're fairly equal in like sharing their culture with my nephew?
I think so. They spend when they can. They spend a couple weeks, if not a month, down in Mexico. Um, they speak Spanish as well as English. They try to raise them up bilingual. Obviously, it's interesting because there'll be sometimes when I'll watch them trying to ask their Spanish words. So I'm like, okay, I see how y'all do. I see how y'all do.
Yeah. But actually looking down at the questions that you have posed, like so I'm curious, where did you get your questions for this topic?
It's from a video, and that's the one that you showed me, the sex workers versus the um so the same company is where I got my questions from.
Ah, I see, I see. Oh, yeah. So actually, do you want to like your questions are far more interesting, so I kind of want to like go through yours.
Okay,
Do you
so
want to
they're
do that?
actually kind of like a fast round. You want to do a fast round?
Yeah, let's do a fast round. Okay.
Okay, so it's going to be 8 questions. So whatever comes to mind, you don't have a lot of time to think. Okay.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. One. Have unintentionally been racist towards my partner.
Unintentionally? Maybe. I don't know. Like he hasn't called me out
Uh,
on it, if I have,
okay.
or at least I haven't recognized it.
Alrighty.
Mm-hmm.
Intentional racist. Okay. Number 2,
Uh-huh.
you don't answer this if you don't feel comfortable. Just let me
Mm-hmm.
know. We'll move on to the next question, okay?
Okay.
So this one, sex gets steamy since you're interracial.
I don't think that has much to do with it. I think it's mainly like how comfortable you are with your partner, not necessarily the interracial part. That
Okay.
seems more fetishy to me, but okay.
Okay. Number 3, interracial relationships can be a fetish, and that's okay if it's love too. I knew this one would hit you.
I mean, like, it doesn't feel like love though. It just feels like lust, and I can't I can't get over it. So I'm gonna have to tentatively say no. If someone comes at me and like proves me wrong, go ahead. But right now, tentatively no. I don't think it's love. I think it's lust.
Okay. Number 4, I have
Mhm.
always wanted mixed babies.
Man, I haven't wanted babies at all. I just so, so no, just no babies for me, thank you.
Alrighty, you're halfway through.
Hmm.
Number 5, I sometimes feel like I betrayed my own race.
No. I mean, like, I owe my race nothing. I'm just me. I owe myself stuff. My race, I owe nothing.
Alrighty, so I put a little asterisk by it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what I noticed in the actual video tended to be more darker skinned people. Darker skinned people actually felt like they were betraying their own race, which I thought was an interesting one than the lighter skinned people. So I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to throw that out there before we finish. Do you want to comment
Yeah.
on that, or do you want to
Well, yeah, I kind of,
keep going?
well, I'd want to pick your brain about it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
probably have more experience with this than I do. In
Mm-hmm.
that, like, it seems like it's more so in, like, Black American culture to kind of stigmatize, like, dating outside of your ethnicity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do
Yeah.
you think that's because of, but to be fair, I think there has been situations where other ethnicities have done this. Like, even Japanese families will sometimes do this, where they're like, well, it's just easier because they already understand the culture to like
Mm-hmm.
stay within the ethnicity. But there's not such a sense of like betrayal. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering, like, why do you think the betrayal part is so unique? I have to get McDonald's. I'm sorry. I'll be back. Sorry. Okay. I'm back. Hi.
Alrighty.
All right. So, yes. Why do you think for like Black American culture there is more of a sense of betrayal and not just like a sense of wanting to like ease a relationship?
Well, we can take it way back.
Mm-hmm.
Back to slavery, for example. When you didn't have much as a people, all you had was the family unit. And even that lost, you think of the families that were kind of split up. So I think that's kind of the roots of some of the ideology. It has, in my opinion, has to do with white people in general. It has to do with the fact that, how can I put it? You just want to keep the family together. You want, if we look at we ask each other, even though there are different tribes and stuff like that that came over, we look at each other, we act like each other, we treated each other like the same. That was like a sense of comfort and security. You knew that you could trust this person better than you could trust a white person, potentially speaking. So
Mm-hmm.
to go outside of your race, that's where the term bed wench comes from. The white masters would rape the black
Mm-hmm.
women in the middle of the night, even though they had their own white families to go to. So that was seen as a big betrayal of trust. Sometimes the husband, if there was one, he couldn't defend his wife. He couldn't help her. He couldn't do anything unless he wanted to get killed, or they sent him away to do other things. For to actually pay black men to go from bar to bar and get drunk just to mess up the whole family order, like to mess up the like that. You think family's the only thing you got.
Mm.
And to have it split up like that, it's a giant betrayal. It's just a lack of security. I think that's where the root it comes from. So whenever we see them out with someone of, we kind of think back. We don't realize we're doing it, but we think back to times of the slave masters, for example. So that's my best guess, and that's the root of it. It could be a fear of fetishism, like you said. Some people do fetishize black people for our features. Not that all features are necessarily the same, because you have people who are like from have smaller lips, for example. Then you have the West Africans that have the bigger lips and the bigger noses, like, and just the darker skin colors, like from Sudan.
Like, I guess I could kind of understand like the fear of being fetishized. But what I was gonna say is like I can kind of understand like the fear of fetishism, since I also slightly worried about that, in that, you know, I wondered if I was just some type of like exotic token to be like masqueraded around for, you know, his friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think that's unfair to assume that since they are outside of my ethnicity, that is the intention. Like, I would hope that I have a good guess of character enough to like determine whether they're there for me or they're there for just my ethnicity. But maybe that's just like a personal thing. But for the betrayal part, I mean, the explanation you gave, it felt more like things out of their control, right? Like if we're harkening back to slavery as the cause of it, that in and of itself doesn't seem like they had any control over the situation, you know?
Yes.
So there would be no feeling. I wouldn't understand the feeling of betrayal that they would feel, since it's a situation that they can't control. Maybe shame, maybe guilt, I would understand. But
That's
like,
probably a better way to put it. I didn't know the word. I was thinking like a betrayal against your own body being raped by a white guy. But shame is a better word. Like, that's what I mean by betrayal. Not between the black people. Sense of betrayal, white person and black person. But shame is a way better word.
But do you think that's changed over time? Like now it feels betrayal to like go with someone that isn't of the same ethnicity.
Personally, I don't care. They have talked to my mother. Some black women have apparently talked down before for supposedly taking another black man from them. She's told me about that. I wish I was there to. I wouldn't be able to say anything, but I don't speak well. But if I could, I would tell them like they're ignorant for thinking I'm taking my father away from them. When there's, first of all, I don't want to say it like this, but I'll say it. There's plenty of black people out there for you to date. It doesn't have to be just my dad that's taken away from the date black men if you'd like to. My father pursued my mother, so she wasn't doing anything. If anything, you need to be talking to my dad, who's black, and tell him to his face that he's being taken out of the race pool simply by choosing a woman of a different ethnicity. To this day, he has a woman that's of a different ethnicity. And I have my reasons for believing but that's just ignorant, I think, to see it as a betrayal. Now, I can understand if you are a Black person who speaks to Black power and then turns around and states someone outside of the race. I can see that more.
Mm-hmm.
But that happens all the time. You see celebrities that they're like for example, Donald Gambino. He's got a white wife, but he talks about Black issues. Black women are beautiful, but he's got biracial kids. If I'm correct, I understand that. I know that his wife is white. I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm not it's a bad thing, but I can see it as definitely being hypocritical. Hypocritical. That's the word.
Yeah. But do you think like that you can't have both? Like you can't be for your culture but also date outside of it? Like I'm kind of extending this past to just like Black Americans, right? Like I'm extending this to like any culture that like they really value who they are and what they stand for and their history. Do you not think that they can have that and also be part of another cult? Well, not be part of, but like be with someone of another culture.
I definitely think that they can. I mean, my dad told me when he was younger, he would always be, and he, in a way, he kind of instilled some of that into me. Not that I'm necessarily obsessed with per se, but he was able to date outside of his race and still be considered a Black man.
Mm-hmm.
He was never considered a traitor to his race. I don't have anybody do that. He's lived the Black experience. Had his children live some of it. We've moved a lot around since then, but he's had his children live through some of it. And yeah, sorry, my brain is like going out to a bunch of different. But
Oh no,
sense.
it's okay. Okay. Well, I mean, we're getting up there on time, so shall we like finish the questions that you had and then like kind of like conclude it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're on question number 6 out of 8 for you. Okay. Being linked to another race has its own benefits.
Well, I mean, yeah, because you're kind of like joining a different pool of people. And so like all those people have their own connections. So of course, like the more people you know, the more benefits you have of like getting access to certain things.
Okie dokie. Number 7, I feel like an outsider with my partner's family.
I mean, not so much. I wish I could be closer with them. Like if I was more talented in the language, I don't think that would be so much of a concern. But I think like because there is that language barrier, I can't get as close. But I don't feel like an outsider. They've never treated me like other. Oh, that one. Oh yes, our weird girlfriend, let her in. No, never felt like that.
Okie dokie. And last one, I wish we were the same race.
Nah, I'm good. I think like I'm fine. Like he's him and that's what makes him wonderful and I'm me and that's what he's liked. So I think changing anything doesn't seem like it would have any better outcomes. Okay. But
Okay.
actually, are there any questions? Like, I'm curious about you looking at your parents' side, like to these questions. Do you think there's anything noteworthy?
Well, let's rule out number 2 because that's awkward.
And hopefully you don't know about it. So
I don't want to know about it. Okay, let's see. I think what's interesting is I wish we were the same race. Like imagine either two Black parents or two Asian parents. I joke around because my mom does. Like Black culture. So she literally got her hair braided, some long, not Bantu knots, but that doesn't even make sense. Basically, she got her hair braided, and sometimes I'll see it and I'll be like, "Mom, you're not Black."
Yeah, I was about to ask. I saw that picture and I was like, "Ooh, I wonder what thing. I mean, what V thinks. V. I wonder what V thinks."
Yeah, no, I joke around with her like that, but
Mm-hmm.
guess what? She likes it's not harming anybody. If it does, they'll probably have to come answer to me. I won't be able to talk well when they do because I'll be angry.
Mm-hmm.
But I can do it because my mom. So sometimes imagining her as a Black mom, I think would be like really interesting. I don't think my parents would get along as well if they were.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing how my dad is, he gets an attitude about stuff real quick, and my people, my Black women, we have fast mouths. So I don't know if they would be together very well. If my dad was Asian and my mom was Asian, I think I would be a lot more demure. I'm not. That sounds so creepy. Let me retract that. I think I would just be a lot more to myself.
Mm.
Just yeah, to myself as it is. But Filipino men are different than Black men, obviously. So I don't hang around a lot of Filipino men to know for sure, but the ones that I have hung around with, they have a more laid back like that than my dad does. So that's how I would imagine. I just imagine I'd be me more.
Wow. It's good to get your opinions on things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we go any longer, probably that would get harder on you for editing.
Yeah.
So, thank you, fellow people, for listening in on our conversation. And hopefully it had some organization to it. Probably not, but I enjoyed it. Hopefully V enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
And
I did.
until the next video. Bye-bye, people.
I guess.